watch the full clip, we've got it linked up on Infowars.com. Gore, global warming skeptics are this generation's racist. And he went on to say, you've got to confront people and say they're wrong and shame them. That's what this is all about. Hey, you're washing your clothes. That's bad for the earth. Water's not renewable. They're just training you to pay more for water, more for less. Hey, your car is evil. Carbon dioxide, pay Al Gore money. And it empowers the globalist, but it also lets them distract away from all the real environmental issues. George Monbiot and all these big environmental chiefs come out and say, I like Fukushima. This made me really believe that nuclear power is great. By the way, that was in his article he wrote in The Guardian. I'm not joking. He said, this is wonderful. It's meant to be over the top. So people are like, well, radiation is good, but carbon dioxide is bad. See, they make it like, well, either you're for toxic waste in the water or you pay Al Gore money. You're either an environmentalist to pay him money and Rothschild money, or you just want to drink poison. No. You don't hear Al Gore worried about bisphenol A and thousands of plastics that was put in there to sterilize people and destroy their endocrine system. You don't hear him talking about that. You don't hear them talking about all the other GMOs. I mean, just all these serious issues, because that's their program of control. You know what bisphenol A does in runoff to the wildlife? Well, they're not worried about real issues. In fact, the environmental movement is there to cover those up. But we have been exposing it. So now in the stores everywhere, bisphenol A free. We expose the different chemicals in the stick-free stuff. For decades, people exposed it. Now they're advertising, oh, this is safe. We actually have the power. They want to lead the environmental movement so they can continue destroying the earth. These people are sick, demonic pigs. He doesn't want us having factories here with our clean-burning coal systems. He wants it over in China where he's got big stocks. He is a demonic, lying, hardcore sicko. Cannot look at Al Gore, big, giant, fat, ugly Nelly. Let's go ahead and talk to Ty in New York. Ty, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. Good to talk to you. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, Al Gore. Okay, so when was this guy ever a climatologist, a meteorologist? He has a Ph.D. in what exactly? I mean,
well, he invented the internet. He made the earth. Remember, he'll point to a hand-picked group of scientists who it turns out were paid to lie, and we have their own emails. A bunch of criminal scumbags.
This guy has no credentials. I mean, I'm in academic publishing, and, this guy's never written a peer-reviewed paper. He has, and I've called people on this to their face, and they, where he says we need to shout these people down. When I say, well, here's the facts, and how is Al Gore qualified?
Ty, hold on, because I'm going to hold you over to the next segment, because I want the full audience to hear you. Some stations don't carry this first 5-minute segment, so I want you to repeat what you're saying and expand on it. But have you ever noticed they have a script they follow where they go, peer-reviewed, peer-reviewed? When we got all their climate documents 2 years ago, they would counter with, we've got peer-reviewed, you're paid by the oil companies. It's actually the mega oil companies financing the carbon tax to shut down coal, which is their biggest competitor. And I'm not saying petrochemicals are great. We should move away from them. But paying that fat slob money isn't the way to do it when he's the biggest shareholder in Occidental Petroleum. Did you know that?
Yes, actually, I did. His father was a major holder of Standard Oil and Big Tobacco. So for this guy to, lay into people, yeah.
Oh, you're informed, Ty. I know. He is such a scumbag con artist, like a guy in a white suit at a used car lot with a corncob pipe. I mean, this guy literally is out of central casting, a giant, humongous dog turd. And I've had enough of him. This son of a bitch. I'm sorry. I apologize. Folks, I never get like this on air. We have a lot of family stations carrying us. I apologize. This is a piece of garbage who literally robs our families. The power bills have basically doubled in the last 3 years in Austin. They're talking about doubling them again. To pay this maggot sucker money. You got the Rothschilds renting huge private islands, huge yachts, private wide-body jets, huge palaces everywhere, private trains, owning the climate exchange, and they're telling old ladies in England, don't take a hot bath, and the old ladies aren't taking a hot bath. You don't need me to tell you that humanity is in a deep crisis. Everyone can feel it. We know a tectonic struggle is now taking place between the forces of freedom and those who love darkness, bondage, and enslavement. Yes, my friends, evil is rising. But take heart. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Recently, New World Order operative Hillary Clinton admitted they're losing the info war.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
The globalists are scared. They've overreached. The future of the info war is in your hands. Join prisonplanet.tv. Download the thousands of special video reports, ebooks, and more, and get them out to everyone you know. Continue to spread the word about the broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and every other globalist propaganda platform. We are going to use their system against them. The info war now goes into high gear. If you go to Infowars.com, we've got 3 separate video reports. And the top video report details the green terrorist. These people are control freaks. They're authoritarians who package their political takeover of society, and that they have the moral high ground and are our political bosses. It then distracts everyone from real environmental issues that we have, like cross-species genetic engineering, chimera clones, open-air testing of pharmacological crops, including corn that grows live HIV virus. Oh, yeah, you better look into pharmacological crops. These are the things that could really screw up our planet and could potentially wipe out humanity. But, oh, no, we never hear about that. We get lectured, and I played part of the clip earlier. You can go watch the full 5-minute video at Infowars.com. DrudgeReport.com also has it. It's the Daily Caller. Gore, global warming skeptics are this generation's racist. And he's sitting there in the full video with this, crony. And the crony is saying, everywhere I go now, I get laughed at when I bring it up. Just a few years ago, we were saving everyone. But what do I do? And Gore goes, you've got to fight back. You're like the civil rights movement being hit with the water cannons. You know, he said there was a time, when people would say, don't be racist, and we're laughed at. But later, now people are embarrassed to be racist. And in Europe, they call it Holocaust denial. They're talking about arresting. They've called in England for arresting Lord Monckton, who's a scientist, for saying it's bull. In fact, let me read some of the quotes. He continued, there came a time when friends and people who you work with or people you were in clubs with, you're much younger than me, so you didn't have to go through this personally. Talking about segregation. But there came a time when racist comments would come up in the course of conversation, and in years past, they were just natural. Then there came a time when people would say, hey, man, why do you talk that way? I mean, that is what's wrong. I don't go for that sort of talk that way around me. I just don't believe in that. That happened in millions of conversations, and slowly the conversation was won. And he goes on, we have to do the same thing to win the conversation on climate, Gore added. Think about this. They sit there and they lecture you, and they get in your face, and they make you comply. And, oh, you want a bag? Even H-E-B's doing it now. At first it was just the environmental stores. You want a bag? That's bad for the earth. And I'm like, hey, these stinking bottles have bisphenol A in them and leach out in the landfills and absolutely sterilize and kill all sorts of animal life. Don't lecture to me, big mouth. It's all a bunch of ninnying little Nazi control freaks trying to boss everybody around. They could care less to make sure their master, Lord Rothschild and Lord Gore, get all your money. You pay money in the carbon tax directly to these fat pigs. What a scam they came up with. All right, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to go to Ty, Drew, Craig, James, Greg, Joss, Don, Cheryl, Richard, Dangerous, and others. You're on the air, Ty. Go ahead and make your point. Ty in New York.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. So, yeah, I mean, again, as I mentioned, this guy and his whole, research angle, he's not himself in any way qualified as far as academic, climatologist, meteorologist, PhD. as I stated. Now, the problem
But, sir,
with
he's not incorrect. He knew full well NAFTA and GATT was going to shut us down when he promised it would double jobs in 10 years. It's not that he doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. That's why his daddy was a big part of Standard Oil and why Al Gore owns the biggest piece of Occidental Petroleum, dumping oil all off the coast of California. He's a hardcore operative. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think what's really important to look at is when you look at all the carbon-based research, first of all, it's correlative, it's not causality. There's been no actual proof.
They use fake models. They lied. They engaged in fraud. NASA, 2 weeks ago, had to admit most of the heat goes out into space. They took that out of the model to prove their point. They're liars.
Yeah, they put the sensors near urban environments, and the people who took the grant money, again, I'm in publishing, in academic publishing, and these guys that took that money from these quote-unquote research institutes and think tanks, they didn't disclose that they were paid for the same people that were funding what they were doing. So That's right.
They got caught all over the world openly putting the sensors generally out on airport tarmacs. An example, it's 107 today in Austin. On the blacktop, because I have a thermometer in my car, it says 112. That's how they ran their op.
Exactly. And, you know, when you look at all the data empirically and how it was reviewed by the same people that wrote it. So the whole thing is flawed.
And then not flawed, it's on purpose. We got their emails where they're all going, how do we hide the decline in temperature over the last decade?
Right. Well, that's probably better said. And the things you say about GMO and, yeah, I work with Big Pharma, and, yeah, you can't even imagine how dirty these guys are. And, yeah,
because I've talked to all the real scientists. I've seen the real facts. GMO is already spreading, and it's mutagenic because when they splice things, it makes it mutagenic, meaning it can jump across into species it couldn't before. I'm telling you, folks, it's the GMO that is going to get us. It's how many studies show in every rat study that it sterilizes them completely within 3 generations, every major GMO crop. And then fake right-wingers get up and say, well, you know, George Washington Carver took different squash and different tomatoes and bred them. No, that's like dogs or horses. That's breeding. That's totally natural and good. I'm not talking about taking 4 different types of dogs and making a French bulldog. I'm not talking about breeding tomatoes together or even creating hybrids. I'm talking about injecting over 100 different species genetics into another species and then open air planting it, putting corn out that grows its own pesticide so that the bugs won't eat it. And then, of course, it's linked to organ failure in humans and mammals. What do you think? The bugs can't eat it, but we're supposed to? I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. The mutagenic effect of these things is completely unpredictable, and at any point, if you have a mutation, you could literally kill the entire, you know, another adverse reaction to a different food supply.
It's unbelievable. So, I've had Nobel Prize winners on. I've interviewed hundreds of scientists who... I've talked to scientists. In fact, I forget the British guy's name. He's real famous. He's won all these awards. He was making millions a year heading up the biggest biotech company in England. This is like 15 years ago. And the potatoes they produced were sterilizing all of the guinea pigs. And he went and he said, we can't feed this. And they said, shut up. Listen, these are supposed to have some other built-in goodies. Just don't worry about it. I've interviewed Russian scientists where they develop stuff. They go, this is sterilizing the animals. And they said, don't worry about it. You know, hey, we're feeding GMO soy to these rats. They're all sterilized in 2 generations, 3 generations. They said, just don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. There's too many people. Wink, wink. So they tell you, just like they build Trojan horse backdoors into all of the cell phones under federal law. You're told they're putting one trait in a plant to make it use less water or last longer on the shelf or whatever the case may be, but they can stack the traits, and they're stacking traits in, and it's the perfect place to hide them. Anything else? I'm sorry I'm ranting.
No, not at all. I just want to say real quick, I live in New York City, and this whole thing with Bloomberg and this hype and this media insanity, it's just more fear-mongering. It was a non-event. I've been to nor'easters that were worse. I mean, yeah, you want to talk about...
But wait a minute, the New York Times says New Yorkers are now ready to give Al Gore their paycheck because it says right here, seeing Irene as a harbinger of change in climate, and it says Obama was at the command center and it wasn't as bad because he was there.
Yeah, he saved us all. But, you know, they had shots of the Freedom Tower during the hurricane, like, well, let's see how bad it can get, and then they start talking about 911. I mean, it's insanity. So yeah, I'm with you. So thanks for your time. Yeah, I don't want to take all of it. There's lots of people. So
no,
yeah,
Ty, you're
thanks,
awesome.
Alex.
Listen, we're going to go to break, and I'm going to try to control myself. This is something that's only happened maybe 10 times in my radio history, and I'm sure it won't happen today. But I'm going to attempt to get to the 15 callers or so that are holding at least. Okay? I'm going to try to get to you, and just have your question, have your comment ready. Make it. I'll make a short comment. We'll move to the next person, because I got Libya to get into. I got globalist water grabs. They're grabbing all the major water supplies. A globalist bank where I live in Austin. No one even cares. LCRA trying to hand everything over. I told you this would happen. A public utility that we've paid for in taxes. They just give it away. That's not privatization. I've got Mexicans are staging drug raids inside the U.S. Yeah, Mexican cops are in the U.S. We'll get into that. It's all coming up. Infowars.com.